Oh no, oh no, oh no!
What's wrong? It just looks like an old library book.
Exactly! It belongs to the Canterlot Library. That means it's... overdue.
Boy, when it comes to a good Twilight episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, I cannot help but beam over it. Twilight Sparkle is considered the one pony I relate to the most, and no, it's not just because she's an alicorn. In fact, the first episode where I remember relating to her the most was Lesson 0 when she had a freak out about not writing a paper on what she learned about friendship to Princess Celestia. An episode I know I need to touch on later, but for now, I want to reflect on this. In a way, both are kinda relatively the same when it comes to addressing Twilight's insecurities about being on time and responsible, and when she feels like she fails to do so, freakouts tend to occur, along with a compulsive need to right the wrongs she has committed, and that's why I relate to her so much. As a person who works on projects and collabs frequently with my friends, including but not limited to the TF2 and my Magic Lesson series, I feel it is my responsibility to keep up with my workload, the scripts I promise to my friends and colleagues, commissions that are paid for, and most importantly to all you viewers who are entertained by what I do. The very idea that I fall behind on my self-made deadlines, or getting sick, or even taking time out for myself, as important that is for everybody, it feels like a rope is being tightened around my heart. I absolutely hate the idea of falling behind on not maintaining a perfect record of work ethics, meeting deadlines, and of course satisfying those who enjoy what I do. Hence why I can relate to Twilight in this episode where she discovers she had left behind a library book in her old room back in Camelot before she moved to Ponyville, only to discover it's a few years overdue. Now, to some, this may not seem like a big deal, that the only repercussion Twilight is going to get is maybe having to pay a late fee, but for those of us who suffer OCD personality disorder, it can be a stressful situation. OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder, is defined as an excessive need for order, perfectionism, attention to detail, and or the need for control in relating to others. Living with this disorder isn't exactly a walk in the park, where the individual feels in order to be at peace and complete is when things are done in an orderly fashion and there are no repercussions on themselves or others that might be affected by it. Otherwise, breakdowns or panic attacks, a fear of dread, or massive problems can occur. Why does this personality type develop though? What could be the possible cause that made Twilight this way? To be fair, we're not entirely sure. Though I can be frank on my end that the condition, while not a horrible handicap on my life, developed from a series of stressful situations which encouraged me to create coping mechanisms to deal with the issues. It's sort of a security blanket so that the problems have a less chance of reoccurring again. But considering that Equestria has dealt with a plethora of dangerous situations in the past, and Twilight having to face some on her own as she got older, who's to say she didn't deal with some stressful situations as a child, and thereby developed obsessive needs for a perfect record, a perfect schedule, a perfect list, etc.? Of course, this is all hearsay on my part, but I feel like it's a good theory. As the episode unravels the concerns Twilight has, she not only feels responsible for not returning the book, but also keeping her perfect record, but also damaging the reputation of her friend, the librarian, Dusty Pages. From that viewpoint, I could see why she would be so stressed out. The consequences of failing to perform an action or promise that could bring upon negative effects of another is something that those of us with compulsive needs really fear the most. The very thought that I could hurt someone's feelings, schedules, or financial stability, home life, anything, simply because I failed to keep my promise on something, it's terrifying to me. I hate the idea of letting any of my family members down, or my closest friends, or even you viewers for watching and supporting my content all the time. If anything, it's downright panic-inducing!
What if Dusty Pages revokes my library card? Or bans me from ever entering the building again. If I'm not a good example of proper book borrowing behavior, then what kind of princess am I?
Dear sweet Finn's pie, I didn't work on that commission for that client today. What if the client gets mad at me? What if the piece was for someone else they were purchasing for? They spent their hard-earned money on this. What if I don't get it finished in the next hour? People are going to think I'm flaky and stop buying art from me. I might lose my job, my YouTube channel, my reputation!
If I'm not a good example of proper book borrowing behavior, then what kind of princess am I?
One that makes mistakes like every pony else. Trust me, once you return that book, you'll feel way better.
Having friends like Spike for someone who freaks out as much as Twilight is a celestial sin from the heavens. Sometimes for those who do suffer OCD, merely need a reassuring friend to give them a new perspective on things rather than allow them to dwell on what the ifs and fears of their folly. In fact, a majority of my friends I tend to lean on for this sort of thing, they tend to help me out on a weekly basis. Okay, Daily. This is where Spike tends to shine the most once again in this episode, and I love how, despite Twilight still gets uppity about her tardy book, he's calm and collected. But at this point, it wouldn't be a Twilight episode if she did continue to freak out before we got to the moral of the episode. Unfortunately, that's where I have to admit the episode tends to suffer a little bit. Being predictable. We've seen Twilight freaking out before, not knowing what to do, trying to solve the problem. Her friends try to help her calm down and see the solution of her ways, but in the end, she goes berserk in her efforts only to realize that her friends were right in the end and she merely needed to collect herself in the front line. However, in this episode, miscommunication tends to override Twilight's need to listen to other calming outlooks as her fears of damaging Dusty Page's reputation and getting her fired from her job as a librarian gets mixed in, thus prolonging Twilight's need to fix the situation as it continues to build when started out as a tardy library book. I admire Twilight for her ethicness to continue forward until she fixes the issue, even if it's a bit out of her way. Having a burden knowing that you might have damaged a reputation or got someone fired is not something I would want to have on my conscience either, and the fact that she worked so hard to resolve the problem, or at least apologize to Dusty Pages, is admirable to me. In the end, it's no longer about her perfect attendance in a library. It's about someone else losing their job because of her tardiness. I remember during my second BronyCon year in 2017, I had a young fan and her mother approach my table. They told me their journey on how they drove all the way from Michigan just to see me and the hopes of purchasing a plushie from my table, only to discover I was completely sold out. The young girl was rather sad and tearing up, and I have to admit the mother looked pretty sad too, after coming all this way just to turn up empty-handed. I just couldn't let them down like that after all the efforts they went to, saving up and driving down here just to meet me. So what did I do? I went Twilinanas and rushed to my partner Kia Shone about having them put on a list to order them another one, only to find out that Kia had a spare plushie at her table for them to buy. Funny how things work out. So after Twilight goes on a crusade to find Dusty Pages and right the wrongs she committed, we are given a rather refreshing moral.
When your book never came in, I felt something exhilarating. Freedom. From books? From perfection.
Freedom. Freedom from perfection. Dusty Pages goes on about how she was trying to live her life of perfection in her career, but realizes she was hiding away from the life she truly wanted, but never really knew she could have. The fact that it took Twilight's mistake to help someone else see the error in their ways really spoke to me. The very thought that trying to keep up with deadlines, schedules, trying to keep a perfect record in, well, everything is kind of sad when I think about it. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to keep a schedule if you're comfortable with it, or be on time for, say, family appointments, school, or events you have planned, but to constantly live a life where you feel you have to meet every single deadline, or schedule, or list, where everything is predictable and planned, will later grow into a life of mediocre, boring, and downright exhausting and frustrating. Not to mention stress-inducing in the long run. I know my friend Dr. Wolf and Aeon have encouraged me on many occasions to enjoy the finer things in life, such as spending time with my husband, enjoying a date night, not worry about the workloads I need to do. Priorities are important. Jobs are important. but that doesn't mean they need to dominate your life. Living to work doesn't seem like a happy perspective when you put it in words after all. Trying new things and not having a fear of failing or falling behind allows us as individuals to grow and learn and expand our horizons, as well as to help limit our fears of the unknown should hiccups or fails or flops occur. This is a lesson I still struggle to learn today, and it's a huge one to learn as a child, because not only will it give your life more joy and excitement in the long run, but it also allows you to relax and not stress out as much. Not to mention, this tidbit really gave me a blushing chuckle.
Wait, did you even read that thing?
Perfection.
And the next part?
The impossible pursuit.
I truly enjoyed the moral of this episode despite its predictability with Twilight's antics of trying to resolve the problem she believed she caused. We got to see new ponies, and the continuity to the first episode back when she used to live in Canterlot. We were given a small expansion on locations in Equestria with Silver Shore's retirement homes. We even got to see Moon Dancer for a short period of time. Despite its predictability, I still found the moral a deep subject to introduce to children that was well addressed in a fun and playful way, while still giving us a viewpoint for us adults to enjoy. And even Spike got another chance to shine with his talents in supporting and keeping a calm perspective despite Twilight's fears. I highly recommend giving this episode a watch if you like funny antics, Twilinana flip-outs, loyal dragons, and fun elderly ponies having a grand old time while sharing some wisdom to boot. I'm Lightning Bliss, and once again, if you like rainbows, be sure to hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up if you want to help support my channel, and if you would also like to share your thoughts, feel free to comment down below. I would love to hear from you. Keep an eye out for those rainbows. They will make you smile.